Welcome back. Today I'll be talking to you about Tina Turner. I hope you know who she is. Born November 26, 1939, her name was Anna Mae Bullock, and she was born in Nutbush, Tennessee. She would go on to become the Queen of Rock and Roll. The name Tina was given to her by Ike Turner, her husband. However, in 1976, supported by her faith in Buddhism, of which she said, "I tested it and it worked." Additionally, she said, "When I started practicing, something happened to me inside." This enabled her to leave a 16-year-long abusive relationship with Ike. She left penniless and only with her name. Then she was able to turn her life around in every way. I'll be reading the Rolling Stone interview that was conducted by Nancy Collins, October 23rd, 1986, entitled "Tina Turner, Queen of Rock and Roll." Quote, "I didn't act my life, I lived my life," end quote. So I'll just start reading. "You've come a long way in life, Tina. You must feel very satisfied in how you've pulled yourself together in the last 10 years since leaving Ike." Tina, "I don't have one debt at this moment. I have a home now. I always wanted a home, but I didn't have one because my parents broke up. I was determined to have that foundation. So I bought my mother a house, and now we all go there, my sons, my sister, her daughter. I'm living something I wanted when I was a child. The principal's daughters had homes, and now I have a home. I've made that dream a reality. I'm self-made. I always wanted to make myself a better person because I was not educated. But that was my dream, to have class. Now it's too late for that. You can't read a book like my autobiography and say, she's classy. You can say she's a respectable woman, but you can't say classy. My role model was always Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. Now you're talking about high stuff, right? My taste was high, so when it came to my role models, I looked at presidents' wives. Of course, you're talking about a farm girl who stood in the fields dreaming years ago, wishing she was that kind of person. But if I had been that kind of person, do you think I could sing with the emotions I do? You sing with those emotions because you've had pain in your heart. The bloodline of my family didn't come from that kind of royalty. Why I relate to it, I don't know. That's the class I want to be, but I wasn't, so I dealt with the class I was in. I've never disrespected myself, and I'm still very proud of myself, but society doesn't look at that as class. That type of woman, society respects me, I think, because I'm self-made and I climbed to the top. But it was the high-class Black people I wanted the respect from, so I never let go of that dream." So a little commentary like, the grass always looks greener somewhere else, because Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, from what we were reading, well, she was starving herself to look a certain way. Being rich and not eating your food, is that an ideal life? Also, she had a husband who was cheating on her with someone else. But I think also the subtext is also the hint of racism, like royalty is usually white and we're more like enslaved people, and that's the buy-in that their white life is superior in some way. And then if you can't be white, then you have to be high-class Black. And what is that exactly? It's like our position in life has to do with, especially as Black people, with oppression rather than choices that we're making. You know, we didn't send ourselves over here on slave ships and did not create the systems of oppression. So I just wanted to say that quickly and then move on. So basically, your family were sharecroppers. Do you feel you're a middle class? Her response: "We were well-to-do farmers. That's as close as I can get to explain it explaining it. To me, it seems as if we lived well. My sister and I had our own room. Each season, we'd get new clothes, and I was always fresh and neat, especially compared to a lot of other people around me. We were never hungry, of course. We knew the difference between our family and, say, the daughters of school teachers. Those people were educated. My parents were, per se, but they had a lot of common sense and spoke well. We weren't low class people. In fact, my parents were church people. My father was a deacon in the church. Again, there's the classism and this trying to distinguish black people and almost blaming them like, well, from our knowledge, we know sharecropping is not well to do. It's like it's an exploitative type of farming where the owner of the land profits more than the worker. But of course, the bar is so low because even as sharecroppers, there's a group of black people still under you. So I understand her saying her life wasn't that bad, but those are not the standards we should have. It's like we should have the thriving standard, and then maybe we'll realize that what we're being given, these crumbs, are not good enough. Okay, both of your parents deserted you at different points in your childhood. Didn't they have a tumultuous marriage? My mother and father didn't love each other, so they were always fighting. Of course, this is problematic. This is domestic violence, and she's seeing it play out in front of her. Your mother left when you were 10. Did you have any idea that she was going to leave? No, but when she was gone, I knew she was gone. She had left before, but then she'd always taken us with her because she would go to her mother's. Daddy would come and talk her into coming back. But this time he knew she was really gone. He knew it. It was the end. I thought she was going to send for me, but she never did. She didn't have money to take my sister and me with her because she was going to St. Louis, where she'd have to live with people herself. This again, abandonment by parents, that's one of the adverse childhood experience, and this sense of being rejected by the people who brought you into the world. And you'll see the impact as we continue. Psychologically speaking, there really isn't anything worse than being abandoned by your mother, is there? I think not, but I was different because I've always been a loner. It mattered that she left, but it also didn't matter. What I simply missed was that she didn't love me, and I knew the difference because I used to watch her with my sister, Aline, how she was with her and then how she was with me. She loved Aline, but strangely enough, I wasn't sad about it. It was just a fact that my parents didn't care that much for me. See, my mother didn't want me in the first place. She had taken my father away from another girl, which is instant karma right there. She was in the process of leaving my father when she got pregnant with me. Again, this is a very low bar she has for herself, and this is set from the get with her parent of being, I'm unwanted, unloved, and it doesn't matter to me because my self-esteem is so low, I don't expect much more. How old were you when your father left you? I was, I was 13, but Daddy and I weren't that close, so that was fine. I didn't mind. I was a little bit afraid of him. He wasn't friendly. He was friendly with everybody else, but not with me. My parents weren't mine, and I wasn't theirs, really. So when they left, it was as if they had always been gone as far as I was concerned. If you ask my sister Aline, you might get different answers because she might have been affected by it differently. Actually, I've never asked her what she thought about them leaving. Isn't that incredible? However, I chose them as parents because obviously those experiences made me what I am today. In the brackets, as a Buddhist, Turner believes that we choose the parents through whom we enter our life. So if you share that view, you share that view. I don't share that view, but here we go in the sense of she accepting another parent leaving, which is another adverse childhood experience. And I have the videos that tell you about that and how that impacts negatively people for their entire life. And yeah, we hear that now, and the parents not being yours. Like, your parents should be the source of unconditional love. The people who brought you in the world and wanted you the most, that's the bar. Anything below that is just not acceptable. Although you said you were surrounded by white people, you attended all black schools. Do you recall the first time you felt any prejudice because of race? No, the only thing I remember is the first time I felt like I wanted to be white. There was this pretty little white girl whose name was Pudding. She had short blonde hair and wore a ballerina skirt and shoes. I was in the 4th grade and a tomboy. Suddenly there comes this golden little fairy bouncing along looking pretty, and I thought, that's what I'd like to look like. It was the first time I remember ever thinking about race. Of course, when you went into town, we'd have to use the back door at many times, but you really didn't want to go into the place where you had to use the back door because you felt the presence of not being wanted. It hurts to be a minority. I'm looked down upon because I'm black. It's forever. It's like a curse on you. We're moving out of it. Of course, we can stand now, but it's still there. It's a memory because you are branded. It's wishing that we as black people had a chance to be as fantastic as we were before being knocked down and made slaves. It goes way back, this thing of wanting to be proud and not to feel second class. So we're seeing compounded traumas here, right? Because also adverse childhood experiences, because you're rejected by your parents who are supposed to want you. And now you have the added burden of racism, something you can't change because this is your complexion, but the society has decided that you're unworthy and second class. So it's not shocking that she wants to be this white girl. After your parents left, you started working for a white family, the Henderson, doing babysitting and housework. Did you not? Yes, I was finally being taught I could sit with them and she'd teach me manners. She was young, but she almost felt like my mother. And I saw love in the Henderson household. They were very affectionate. They were always just like a couple who were really in love. It was a perfect marriage scene. The house, the baby, the car, and they never fought. Mrs. Henderson was my role model. I took every mannerism she had. But there were times I was put in my place. One time when it was very hot, I took the child walking. I stopped, knocked on a door, and asked for a glass of water from the lady who answered. She slammed the door in my face. Suddenly I remembered, don't get that comfortable. You can't just stop at someone's door and ask for water. But in the Henderson's house, I didn't feel any discrimination at all. So here we have, this is how the trick works, right? Of course, if you live in a family like the Hendersons, she's idealizing them. If you're not ever fighting, there's something going on there because people have conflicts. It's not that you shouldn't fight, it's that you should fight well and not in ways that are not abusive. So she idealizes these people and they happen to be white. So then the ideal again become whiteness. And what could be making the Henderson family work better than the family she grew up in is money. Often that, because there they have this young girl helping Miss Henderson, who I don't think works, to care for her child. So it's nice to be in a good mood when you have the house, the baby, the car, right? And someone, a young child, helping you take care of your child. So yeah, it's missing the systemic things that always gets you to turn your eyes to whiteness and idealize it. You were left by not one parent, but two. I'm surprised that you didn't leave. Surprised that didn't leave you more disillusioned, even bitter. I never allowed that to happen. I was never that person. I made a world for myself. I searched for what I wanted, and when I found it, I patterned myself after another class. Class for her is also a race. When I went to school, I didn't observe the misfortunate ones. I observed the fortunate ones, people with manners, educated people. So I never became what I was. It's the same thing I did with Ike. I never did the drugs, never drank, never stooped to his level. No one, even now, can get me to stoop to be anything I don't want. I've always held my head high. I might not have dressed as nice as the principal's daughter, but what I had, I kept neat and clean. Once at school, I was being naughty, and the principal called me over. He said, "I'm surprised at you. You're different. You should know better." I didn't know what he meant, but I felt it was a compliment. I was very happy that he saw something different. So it's the way poverty is internalized as a failure on the part of Tina rather than this is systemic injustice and poverty is a policy choice, and poverty for Black people is policy, racial policy against us. So what should be a system problem, she now internalizes it for herself. Another way of just breaking down her self-esteem and then not feeling empathy for the other people who are poor. She says she only focused on the fortunate ones, and this educated people as being better than uneducated people when it's not a matter of character, it's a matter of access. Some people get the fortune of being able to access education, and very smart people don't get that access. So it's this way of we blaming ourselves for systemic injustice. Continuing, did you ever think of leaving home yourself? Nobody left home in those days. Again, we were church people and leaving home was a sin. So I didn't leave. My family just left me. My thought was to get married and have a happy marriage because that was the thing you did. Were you a good student? No, I was a dumb girl. I wasn't interested in school. I'm sure there was some psychological factor about my home life. Without knowing it, I was afraid and embarrassed, which is why I wasn't as good in school as I wanted to be. But I was always promoted because I had manners and personality, and I tried. I turned in my homework even though it was most times wrong. I took hard stuff like French, anything that would make me a better person. But what I did was the common sense thing, that's surviving. I was always worried I wouldn't pass. I felt I had to graduate because that was the respectable thing to do. Again, she said she was a dumb girl, but actually the adverse childhood experience of being abandoned by your parent, by observing them engaged in domestic violence, that changes your brain. That psychological trauma causes you not to perform well in school. So there was poor little Tina taking responsibility for injustices and traumas that she didn't inflict on herself, that her circumstances inflicted on her. That was very admirable, since you must have known that if you did drop out, no one would really have cared. Except me. I was the only one who saw my report cards. I knew the difference between the girls who got A's and B's and me. And it hurt. I did get the occasional A in drama and gym, and those were wonderful. I also worked through high school for the Henderson. I had planned to move into the city. I had already found a house, but then I went to St. Louis to live with my mother. I'm going to stop here, but here you see Tina as a totally parentified child, where she should have had parents caring for her. She's a working person, going to school. A's in school is the least of Tina's problem. Tina was getting A's in life because she was a grown woman caring for herself when she should have been a child being cared for. So I'm going to stop here because I'm only doing this in segments because I don't know how much you can really listen to, but thanks for listening.